Hello, my name is Tony. It's late at night. A pint of Kronenbourg 1664 suitably chilled. A generous glass of Jack Daniels with one chunk of mineral water ice floating in it. Sat up and surfing the channels and streaming apps, wondering what to watch for the next hour or so. Talking Pictures, what's on there? Oh look, in 5 minutes time there's a screening of Norman J. Warren's last movie. The one that went straight to video in the late 80s. The one that broke him. An experience at the scabrous bottom of the movie-making barrel that left him so bereft and disillusioned, he vowed never to direct another film again. And true to his word, he didn't. The one filmed in Wales, my homeland. Barry Island, to be exact. A coastal resort town where the sea is permanent home to a shape-shifting flotilla of human turds and bubbling raw sewage. Where it rains at least 250 days a year. The rest of the time, just for meteorological variety, it's hail or snow. Where the fun fair has the same concern for health and safety regulations as a medieval siege on a nunnery full of virgins. Bloody New Year, a film I'd only ever seen once on VHS rental and never troubled to seek out again. Funny that. Am I really going to watch it? Yes, I bloody well am, right? And for the purposes of this review, not only did I watch it again on Talking Pictures, but I also got hold of a Blu-ray copy from my shady contact with a disposable income and an overwhelming desire to own every Blu-ray ever released. And I watched it yet again in its remastered incarnation, like that was going to make things better. Now, is that dedication to a cause or what? There's not much to absorb in narrative terms. The script and dialogue is dire, about as elementary as it's humanly possible to get. The plot is a retread of the kids in peril in an isolated setting being terrorized and picked off by malevolent forces blueprint, beloved of most bargain basement slasher fare. 2 girls and 3 boys are enjoying a fun-packed holiday on the golden brown sands in sun-drenched Barry Island. How'd those sands get to be that particular shade? Take a wild guess. Not that it matters, but the gang are Leslie, Janet, Spud, Rick and Tom, the famous fucks. At the high-tech fun fair, they encounter 3 gurning, brain-dead roustabouts bullying a lone female on the waltzers. She's Carol. The goons are Dad, Ace and the Bear. I'm not going to cite who's playing who, as none of them can act, and future careers in the arts seemed a more distant possibility than building an ice bungalow on the sun. One of them did go on to play a minor role in ITV cop show The Bill, I think. As for the rest, no fucking idea. Rescuing Carol and humiliating the thugs in a dash through the funfair, the sextet takes a boat out in about 2 feet of water. The boat hits a rock and sinks. Pretending to be floundering in the ocean when it just about covers their ankles, the gang make it to a nearby island and to a haunted hotel that hasn't changed one fucking bit since New Year's Eve 1959. It's July and the Christmas trees and decorations are still up. Now I know some people in Wales who actually do this, well, saves time come next Christmas. So it's not that much of a stretch. One of my neighbours still has a Christmas wreath on the door as I speak. A lot of milk bottles, newspapers and mail stacking up also. Wonder what it could mean. Anyway, the roustabouts follow the groovy gang to the island bent on revenge, and what follows is an onslaught of supernatural, poltergeist, zombie, demon, sci-fi activity, and everyone dies. Only to rematerialise as ghosts, trapped in a time warp celebrating New Year's Eve 1959 for eternity. Apart from Carol, who's trapped behind a mirror. I think she's supposed to be American, so maybe that's why she gets singled out for the implied narcissism. If this happened in Montecito, Megan would be the one in the mirror, Harry would be a mindless zombie in a one-man conga through privileged oblivion, just like in real life. Now I should mention that although I wasn't expecting an explanation for these events, that was my bad, because towards the end we get one, which just goes to show you should never assume or prejudge. I will continue to do so though, if you don't mind. The film introduced itself with black and white footage of a New Year's Eve party in 1959. When everyone leaves the ballroom in a conga line, the screen changes to colour and a lone woman fixes her makeup in the full-length mirror. She gasps and is dragged into the mirror by unseen forces. What's happened is, we are told in a blink and you'll miss it snatch of exposition from a zombie, an aircraft transporting an experimental cloaking device crashed on the island during the party and locked it and the hotel into a time warp. There you go. Oh, you know I said everyone dies? Don't worry, it's not important. There is 0 character development. They're all unsympathetic cardboard ciphers, so you won't be in any way emotionally invested and therefore won't care. So it doesn't matter. If you hacked the budget of Hawk the Slayer by about 90 to 95%, that's probably an optimistic window on what it cost to make this film. I don't know how much cash was splashed exactly, but to give an idea, the makers paid the owners of the funfair £300 for unrestricted access and a film there for a week. That's about 900 quid in today's money. They were also allowed to offer free rides to attract extras. My guess is you couldn't rent Disneyland Paris for 3 seconds on those terms and conditions. Low budget doesn't automatically equal bad or low quality. Some of the best films ever made were done so on a meagre shoestring. And there's no denying that Bloody New Year was inspired by and stole from some classy product. They must have looked around and thought, what horror fantasy films have been successful? Then threw an absolute shitload into the mix. You will find trace elements of The Shining, Dawn of the Dead, The Evil Dead, Poltergeist, Shockwaves, The Beyond, and moving somewhat off the beaten track, a cheeky lift from Woody Allen's Purple Rose of Cairo. However, whilst it resonates with and channels Warren's mega-cheap sensibilities and his penchant for paying homage to the B-movies of the long-ago time, it lacks his usual signature style. By that, I mean the gore and shock content, that drive and off-the-scale willingness to exploit the subject matter in grisly and gaze-averting ways is almost completely absent. Rather than drench it in his traditional blood, viscera, gratuitous nudity, and nausea-inducing set pieces, he relies on crappy practical effects, which, to be honest, are uniformly dreadful. An indoor snowstorm looks just like what it is, asbestos flakes chucked in front of a wind machine. A seaweed monster is rendered more artlessly than something from early 70s Doctor Who. A woman is attacked by a haunted fishing net. A spirit whacked with a golf club clumsily morphs into a plaster of Paris model exploding into dust. Objects move about on strings. Film runs in reverse so that things reassemble or move back to their original positions. It is truly amateur, and it's not a good look. Even the penultimate death scene involving an outboard motor having a tete-a-tete with a character's face is not shown, happens off camera. Warren attributes this blood-shy approach to the demands of the producers, who insisted on aiming for a 15 certificate. One thing he always had going for him was his enthusiasm. By this point, it had largely dissipated. There are, however, some inventive and appealing flashes, brief and insubstantial as they are. The black and white intro is a decent enough period representation of a place and time, offering a glimmer of hope that you're in for something a bit better than what you get. It's an intriguing prelude even if the promise it makes fails to materialise. Clips of the controversial 1958 British sci-fi flick Fiend Without a Face are shown sporadically, giving substance to the rumour that originally Warren wanted this to be a homage to the 1950s B-movies. How he secured the rights to include those clips I have no idea. I can't imagine much money changing hands, especially when it's been further alleged that the budget wouldn't accommodate the setting of Bloody New Year in 1959, which was Warren's initial vision for it. It's staggering to note that the effects and models in Fiend Without a Face, Flying Alien Brains, are streets ahead of anything in Bloody New Year, made nearly 30 years later. Although I said the period setting was, decent, it's not without some glaring incongruity. The modern-looking no smoking sign in the kitchen, for example, in 1959, I don't think so. People would light up in a fucking operating theatre. And the plastic battery-powered Santa. In 1959? Really? I'm not going to list everything I came across, it will just get tedious and neither you nor I have the time to waste. Bloody New Year is not short of ideas, just none of them work. An attempt to replicate Sam Raimi's head rush cinematography from The Evil Dead looks like someone strapped a miniature camera to a snail and set it off through the grass. When a character steps from the screen of a film, the Woody Allen reference, the editing is so poor you can literally see the cuts being made in real time. An attack by a kamikaze vacuum cleaner does raise a smile, possibly. Phantoms appearing in a mirror, again the editing is so fucking lazy, they disappear before the actor turns around. Just cut a fucking second later, you dicks. It's poor filmmaking is the point I'm trying to get across, unreservedly thoughtless and careless. Oh, hang on, I know, the music is pleasant enough. The band Cry No More, fronted by Nick Magnus, who worked with Steve Hackett, and Chaz Cronk, bass player with progressive folk rockers The Straubs, provide 6 original songs. Magnus contributed the rest of the incidental music. Cronk and Magnus appear as ghost performers in a ballroom scene, a very cut-price nod to The Shining's Overlook Hotel. I can't really recommend Bloody New Year. Yes, you could argue it has some crazy ramshackle charm up its sleeve, but personally, I don't think it does. May have a soiled Kleenex up there. It certainly goes down better with alcohol, I've found, but that's a story of my life. I found it with most things. Vinegar Syndrome have hawked it out as a standalone Blu-ray, and it's part of the Norman J. Warren box set Bloody Terror. The best format to watch it on if you really want to see it, or if you have access to Talking Pictures, wait for it to resurface on there, which is probably a better option than spending money on it. Thank you as always for your time and attention. Do whatever you want to do. Hit like, don't like, comment, subscribe, be a patron of my Patreon thing, make a financial contribution via the thanks button. Whatever's next is whatever's next. Nothing like being definitive, and that's nothing like being definitive. Back soon, pilgrims.